and welcome to the Webseries Digest. This is episode 3, Writing Your Web Series. I'm Sara, and my guests today are...
Hi, my name is Aubrey Carey, and I have created A Document of Madness and The Better Strangers.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Nixie Greep. I've created the Gray Tarmac Road and co-created the Uncanny Upshurs.
Also, for those who don't know, including Aubrey, Ingrid and I are twins who were separated at birth.
Oh yeah.
And raised across the ocean.
Yeah, with different ethnicities and...
Yeah. Incredible.
Born like a year apart, you know. There was
You're
some science involved.
I was kept in a test tube.
Mm-hmm. Kind of just starting with the basics. How is writing a web series different than writing like a regular script, or even just like writing a novel or a short story? Because I'm sure for most people, like I'd say probably like 96% of people, the web series will not be your first ever writing project.
You're calling me out. It was my first ever writing project.
Was it seriously? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know. And you've got one of the good ones. Like,
yeah,
thank you. I was taking a drink of water and I almost did a spit take when you said that. Thank you.
Oh.
No, because I remember writing scripts at like the age of like 6 or 7. I vividly remember writing a script for a Christmas. Like, we never did any of the things that I wrote, like any of the scripts I wrote or anything. But I vividly remember writing a script probably somewhere between, I mean, we were in Florida, so probably I was more like 9 when I wrote this. That was a Christmas script, and we sang either Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and I wanted my brother to be dressed as Rudolph. Like, quick change style. He was on stage, immediately had to come back on dressed as a reindeer, and, like, had to crawl around the stage.
Oh my God.
I don't think I have a copy of that anymore. I remember there was a drawing.
Yeah.
Of Michael in this reindeer outfit. For whatever reason, there was no antlers.
The audience had to use their imagination.
Because he's a baby. He's a baby one. Yeah, no, I mean, I am literally at university for creative writing, so there's that. No, like, yeah, you know, I think it's different in that, for me at least, it is easier to write a script than to write, you know, touch wood, than to write novel writing, which is what I did for most of, like, time. I was like, well, I really like prose, and I'm okay at scripts, and I hate poetry. Poetry's okay. I've gotten better at poetry. But, it did get to a point, like, when I was writing Gray Tarmac Road, because that's so long. It's too long. It should be shorter. But I was writing that so much that I could only write scripts, and I would write scripts and then, like, fill in prose stuff afterwards, because it's just a lot easier to get down, like, what you want to happen and what, you know, people are saying and that kind of thing, because it's all, this is action and then this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I think web series can be easier and can be harder because, you know, in the sense that you could have a web series episode, you know, which is usually about like 3 to 6 minutes long, sometimes a bit longer. You could have that be like the same as you'd have a scene, which I guess is what, you know, it would probably be a lot easier for the people who are adapting plays, like you guys, than novels. But it's, you know, you have to have something happen in every scene. Do you know what I mean? Like, it has to be, the story moves forward every single 5 minutes, which is like, ugh, you know.
Yeah. Seriously. I think I'm a sort of action-based person, and when I say this was my first writing project, that is true. It's my first completed writing project. But when I was younger, like, I wrote little, maybe not short stories, like, I never really finished anything, but I would, like, write a tiny bit of things, and I always had, like, notes next to my bed of, like, different dialogue I liked. So I liked dialogue, and I knew I was good at it. So that's why, when thinking about writing something like a web series, I was like, oh, I can do dialogue, and I really like action. So it kind of came a little bit easier for me, but it's harder, though, because you have to make sure the audience is engaged every, like, 3 5-minute interval. Yeah. And that can be harder to do, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because there's some, I personally would say I'm better at writing characterization than I am at plot, which you can see in the Gray Tarmac Road, because the plot is kind of all over the place. But it's like, basically, if you can get the characterization in that people, within the first sort of 5-6 episodes, people care about the characters, then it's like, okay, now I can do whatever the frick I want with these people, and you'll keep watching it. But
yeah, it's so crucial. It's so crucial to have people like your characters, or at least relate to them on some basis. That's why the first episode is really important, because you want them to have a sense of who the character is.
Yeah. No, that's why, because it started getting, in the first couple of years of web series, after there'd been a few, all the first episodes kind of started feeling the same. And this is why you've got to have a really strong character voice, and also a good actor, a good lead actor, because otherwise it's so difficult to get sort of invested in what's going on.
Yeah. It's harder, like, when you watch a web series, like, my advice is look at your favorite web series. The web series you were like, oh, because of this, I want to start making a web series. And watch, like, the first 3 to 5 episodes and find out, like, what hooked you into it and why did you like that. Because, I mean, there's different things. Like, some people will start watching a web series because it maybe has better production value or whatever. But the reason why I think people really connect to certain web series is focusing on the character, and if the character has an interesting voice and they start to either feel like they can relate to, or they start to idolize that character. That's what I realized through different fandoms, that I think that's really interesting, and it's harder. So don't go into writing being like, I need someone who's perfect, like I need a character that's perfect. Like, no, you just want to write something that you find entertaining, because usually what you'll find entertaining, other people will find entertaining.
Yeah, I think we've said this in this series before. If you don't like what you're writing, you're not going to succeed. If you don't like what you're creating, you're not going to succeede. Don't create something because you think it'll be popular or it'll be easy, like, because then you're not gonna. It's not gonna. You're just not gonna care enough.
You gotta write something that you want to watch, because most likely you'll be the only one watching it.
You'll be watching it. No, you have to. And you have to enjoy the character and what's going on, and I mean, it's really interesting. That you would say to bring up, like, watching your favorite web series and figuring out what it is, because there's a lot of them, especially the more popular ones. Some of them, it comes into, like, when you just sort of analyze the dialogue and stuff, a lot of the strength is in the acting. And in the smaller web series that get sort of like that get people watching it, it's like, oh, well, this is really well written. Even with some of them where the acting is not amazing, it's harder to get. It's harder to get popular on good writing than it is on good acting. Like, stuff like, no tea, no shade, but like, Carl Miller and stuff like that. They have really, really good actors, and it's like, they can make that personable, and they can sort of make okay dialogue kind of work because their characterization is really good and because you care about the characters. Even when you're kind of like, oh, that doesn't sound like a thing a person would say. But, yeah.
I mean, it's like that in just, I'm going to say, like, The Professional. Like, people will go see a terrible movie for the
Yeah.
actors in it.
Yeah.
There is a certain movie coming out in June that I am psyched to go see. I know it's going to be terrible, but I am really gay. and Scarlett Johansson and Kate McKinnon are going to kill a prostitute, and I'm going to love it. And it's going to be a terrible
Are you sure?
movie.
I mean, I think it's going to win an Oscar. Honestly.
It's the kind of thing that could.
It could.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be really good. Anyway, the gist of that, the point of that was, Sara is really gay. Also, people will go to terrible movies just for the actor.
True.
Yeah.
And I think that brings up a really interesting
You know,
point.
if you can.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say on that. I just think it brings up a really interesting point.
You just think it's interesting. I was like, oh, tell me more about that interesting point.
No, just acting's important.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
The elaboration on that is your writing could be shit, your production values could be shit, but Benedict Cumberbatch is there, and suddenly there's a line out the door.
Oh yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch is an interesting case. No, I mean, because, you know, like, I was really lucky in my first web series in that the people who I went to college with were really good actors. This is English college, which is sixth form for people who don't know that, and the last 2 years of high school for Americans. Okay. But it was like, less, I don't know, it's a different kind of environment. It's like between high school, college thing. So it's not all the same people you've been going to secondary with. So people are nicer, basically. But no, like, you know, especially, you know, the two boys who everyone fell in love with, especially Omar Bynum, my boy in my heart. Yeah, because, you know, if there's someone who can really connect with something you've written and really works in that part, then it's like, yeah, I'm on board, you know.
Yeah. Same thing for me. I met, I was casting everything at my college, but my college is like American college, which is the same thing as like university, except we just call it college.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that there was a really strong theater presence there. And that's when I was casting people. I was lucky to have like some really good actors in the mix. Like Xavier, who plays Hamlet in A Document of Madness. Like, same thing. Like, sometimes you get that one person who you're like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't belong here. You're too good for this.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
literally both, like, those two and Amania have... I think Amania is doing psychology. But anyway, but the two boys are now in drama school. Like proper frickin' like Central, which only takes like 10 people per year or something. Them. And yeah, there's like frickin' top tier shit, and I'm like, you are in my thing.
Oh, it's so nice. And it's really nice when you can have like a translation of your work, and as like when you get into the filming process, things will definitely change. And you'll realize maybe, like, you've written something that's way too formal, or an actor will be like, maybe we can change this line a little bit. And sometimes you're like, no, we can't change that line. And sometimes you're like, actually, yes, like, you brought up a very good point. We can change that line.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's because, like, you know, it'll depend on the way the actor plays the character, because, you know, like I had, you know, these guys and people who would kind of add like different spins on it, and especially you know, Natalie, who played Lynn in GTR, she would often sort of go, there's too many words and they're too long, please can I simplify it? It was like, okay. And then there was like Sara, who played Gemma in the Uncanny Upshurs, she played it very differently to how I wrote it, but it really worked, so I was like, okay, cool, we're going with that. But there was one scene and she was kind of awkwardly reading the line, and then she was like, can I not say fan, please? I was like, okay. Okay, that's fine. Don't say
That's a really good point, because that happens
Yeah.
like all the time. Like you'll write something for a certain character in a certain way, and then the actor will come in and it will be completely changed. And sometimes you're like, that's not really what I wanted, but okay. And other times you're like, oh, that was perfect. And why didn't I think of it that way?
I'm the guiltiest. I cannot say a line correctly to save my life. And luckily, as Jamie, and just I don't talk right like normally. Like, I don't pronounce things right. I just do not talk correctly for whatever reason. So, you know, so I'd come in, I'd be talking as Jamie, and I just, like, completely destroy some of the lines that Shannon would write, and then she'd just be like, that's, how did you even get there? I'm sure she has some lovely anecdotes that she could share, but she's not on this.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot, like, I think if you're gonna act in your own web series, which all of us have, have someone on set who's gonna be able to tell you, like, direct for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you're directing in La La La, have someone, because for a lot of GTR I didn't, and there were some takes that I was like, I'm telling everyone to change things, but why do I keep saying that way? Why do I keep doing that? None of these are right, because of every time. Yeah, there was like, we had, a lot of the time we did have Ollie, who plays Toto and is an actual American, telling me when I was mispronouncing things. But yeah, and then like my head of crew, Olivia, who is amazing, and got everyone to shut up and work. But yeah, definitely, if you're going to act in your own thing, because you think you have all of the knowledge of like what you've written and how you wrote it.
Exactly.
And you're like, come in with all these preconceived ways of how you think it's going to happen and how the scene is going to happen. And so you don't have for one thing, you don't have like, the added benefit of someone else saying, oh, well, could you try saying it this way? And then you also don't have sort of reading it with other people and seeing just how it would play off of how they say stuff. So, yeah, have someone else there.
It's a blessing and a curse being in your own web series that you've written and you're directing. It's a blessing and a curse, because you get like the full experience, but at the same time, like, and this goes back to directing for me, like I would be so focused on everyone else, and I would have too much knowledge. But the thing was, because The Better Strangers was so plot based, a lot of the time, even when it was like an improv episode, I would have to fill all the actors in on what's going on, because they wouldn't really read the script or really know where we were, because we filmed out of order. So a lot of the time, there's this thing called given circumstances, which is basically like what just happened, what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And like I would have to fill them in all the time. So that was a lot of like, I would say it's fine having a simple plot, because sometimes like if things get too complex and you have too many characters in the room, it's gonna get a little funky.
No, I would definitely say when you're, planning a web series, try as hard as you possibly can to split up the action so that there aren't too many scenes that have everyone in the show in them, because that's the hardest thing in the world to make happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, like what was I gonna say? I don't know. I can't remember. I'll remember later.
I was just going to jump in here and be like, this would be a great time to talk about pacing your web series when writing.
You mean, what kind of pacing do you mean?
I think just kind of like how, because especially since with web series, we all want to end on that nice round number.
Oh, yeah.
You want to end on the 100 episodes or the 20th episode, And, like, right now, like, I've written out the outline for the next show I'm working on, and I broke it down, and it ends up breaking out nicely within the outline into 20 episodes. And I'm very happy that has happened. But because of that, I think there might be kind of, on like like a want to maybe drag some stuff out or put in like an extra filler episode, you know, or you know, or you're like, oh, every web series has that episode where they go on, you know, they have the adventure vlog.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to put in one of those, but maybe it doesn't actually like, but then it's just kind of like an extraneous episode, doesn't make sense with your plot, you know, so that kind of thing. And then also there's in almost all web series, there's what I lovingly think of as the Babysitters Club episode. Because for those unfamiliar with the Babysitters Club series, it was a series of books for like middle school age girls. And the idea was that basically you could pick up the book at any point in the series and just read. So the second chapter was all the exposition for the novel. Like, here's all the, here's our main characters. Here's all of their personalities. Here's how we formed the Babysitters Club. And then...
Yeah, Claudia made a lampshade out of dried macaroni. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you are talking to the person, saying all that stuff about round numbers and how that makes you do extraneous episodes. Firstly, to the person with 83 videos and 74 proper episodes, and the most extraneous things in the world. Like, there's too much of it. Oh,
but that's cool. Like, yours was like world building. And sometimes I am a fan of filler episodes sometimes because it is world building, but sometimes like I would and this goes back to like editing yourself when you're in post-production. I had over 100 episodes written. I cut down a lot because sometimes I would realize that when you're in the room with an actor, sometimes what you think is funny in the room isn't really funny outside the room. Because it's sort of like an inside joke thing, and the audience won't understand. And it's always good to film it and then look at it in post production, honestly. But I got to the point where I thought I was only going to have 99 episodes for The Better Strangers because I was cutting down too much, and I was like, oh, I have to go back and I have to put something in, and because the audience expects it. They get weirded out if you only have like 99 episodes. Like, they expect you to get to 100.
Yeah.
100.
I mean, yeah, like, there was a lot like that with, like, is it only funny to me because I was there? Like, especially with all the improvisation stuff. Because there's this Q&A video that ended up being 2 videos long, and it was supposed to be, like, 8 questions, and then some plot comes in. And then I had fucking Omar doing improvisation and being really funny, and I was like, oh, fine, whatever, we're gonna do this. And, I was really, really worried about, this bit, Chef Perspiration, which lots of people know about. And I was really worried that was only funny because I was there and I was, you know, cracking up at it. But I literally had, like, 8 different people watch it in the real world, just like watch this thing. Now I'm gonna stare at you while you watch this thing, and then you're gonna tell me if it's good. But yeah, no, there was a lot like that. I mean, I think it depends what kind of show you want to make, because there are some series that are very, very plot driven. You know, like Hamlet the Dame, Shannon's web series, which is very short, and something like 2 or 3 things happen every episode.
That's amazing.
It's really good. It's really freaking good. But there's like, you know, I mean, for one thing, like, I know that I have personally gotten a lot better at plot writing, and I wasn't at the time of GTR. Like, a lot of it was like, okay, and also this stuff is happening, but, like, I don't forget, the characters don't know what's happening, so I don't need to know, and then whatever. But I mean, in the end, it's like, oh, I would have done this differently and that differently and blah, 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 but it's, as a show, it's just kind of like, oh, well, it's not very plotty, it's just kind of like, oh, characters and fun stuff. But I think those ones are definitely a lot easier to watch in bulk. Whereas the plot ones are like, what's going to happen next? You know?
Definitely. Definitely. I don't know what to add on that. I just agree.
I
just agree. Totally.
This episode, I think, is very much going to be all of us being like, this is a really good thing to do when you write anything, but we didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
We didn't do it, and we have some regrets.
Yeah, I don't want to come across as, like, a mess, but I think I probably have the most regrets, because I didn't plot The Better Strangers at all. Like, I don't know what, I mean, oh my God. Like, I look back, and I was really worried talking to you guys about it, because you guys probably have, like, outlines, and, like, Ingrid's talking about characterizations, and I'm sitting here in the back going, like, oh, shit. Like,
I literally, like...
Oh, God.
I have documents of me trying to plot stuff is hilarious because, like, you can see it in the new Unups document that me and Jules have just finished plotting series 2. Spoiler alert. But yeah, we've started writing it now. But we were plotting that, and Jules's episode descriptions are like, this thing happens, this thing happens, this thing happens, and mine are like. Mm-hmm. And this goes crazy, like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And I talk to myself in the descriptions because it's way easier to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like, the first, like, you know, the first go-through plotting something is always like, and maybe this happens? I don't know. Maybe that's too crazy. Maybe I really don't have the budget for that. But, you know, in a perfect world, this, and this. You know, I mean, I definitely say when I'm writing stuff, I just write. Like, you know, I'm just like, okay, this is what's happening next, and I'm just gonna write it. And I'm just gonna, especially the first go around writing GTR, it was like, I'd write a load, and then I'd be like, now I have an idea for what might happen later. Let's go back to the plot document and add this. But yeah, like, you know, yeah, I think that's gotten better. I hope it's gotten better.
It's so, oh my God.
I have, like, a notebook where I put, like, all of my writing ideas in. Like, it's just a separate notebook. And I've been writing a lot of fanfic lately. And all of my outlines for these fucking things is literally, like, in the middle of it, it's like, I don't know what happens now. They kiss, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know. Because a lot of it's fanfic.
I'm actually going to try and find this, hang on, because it's very good to reassure prospective web series creators.
I mean, when worst comes to worst, you could go my method, which is have a vague idea, have, like, a written summary of, like, this is the general plot-ish, kind of, and then just, like, kind of start writing. I was very inspired by, like, I would have a certain line pop in my head or a certain situation would pop in my head, and that's what I'd write to for every episode. The only thing I had literally plotted out, as in, like, they do this, they do that, was the Rose and Orlando episodes. Like, that was an actual arc. Like, if there was a certain arc, I would have that. Like, Polly's arc, I had like 1, 2, and 3 written out, but it wasn't very heavily plotted, which my advice to future web series creators is have a good time management and don't put yourself under a deadline, or if that's better for you. But I was under a strict deadline that I kept on pushing back, and I ended up writing all the Better Strangers, over 100 episodes in maybe 2 weeks, and it was not good.
That's
not
crazy.
Good.
Yeah, no, I wrote GTR for my college, for my A-level final creative writing folder, and so I wrote it. I spent the whole year writing it. I was still writing it while we were filming it. Don't tell anyone that. No,
dude, same.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Baby web series creators, do not write while you're filming. You will hate yourself.
I mean, I did. We did spend the whole summer filming, and also there was a lot of stuff that I added in, especially like, look, okay, this is one thing that no one believes, and it's very unbelievable. When I started writing GTR, and for most of it until like January of that year that we filmed, I thought I was straight and cis and neurotypical. Yeah, Yeah. So that was a thing. Even though, like, everything I'd written was, especially when I wrote a play and I was going to be in it, I always wrote my character was a lesbian. because that clearly has no reflection on me or, whatever. But, yeah, so it was while I was writing it, that I didn't set out to write the main pairing that comes out of GTR. That's why it kind of comes in towards the end. But it was like, oh, now they're kissing. Okay, that's fine. But, yeah, and still at that point, I thought I was straight. But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff, like, that's why a lot of that series, things go unconfirmed for a long while, because I just didn't write it. And I wasn't in that sort of headspace of like, oh, things should be confirmed, blah, 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 because this is when I sort of found all of that. And then I was like, oh, I want to put in all of the labels and I want to make sure that people know in canon and blah, 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 and do all this stuff. So I kind of went back and I just was like, oh, and then they'll have this episode for no reason, but I want to say this stuff.
Yeah. It's scary how that happens. Like, I came out of, like, a different situation with that, where I would write these things. Like, I'm a huge fan of talking about things that most people don't like to talk about, like suicide and, like, verbal abuse and, like, that stuff, because that's just a great way for me to process things. And so I'm a huge fan of that. And I put in this verbal abuse plot line, and I had never been verbally abused. But it's weird how, like, as the Adam episode where he talks about being verbally abused is published, like, these things are happening in my life where close people of mine, close friends and family members of mine are going through these things that are reflecting the web series. And, like, certain characters would say things at certain times that would either reflect how I was thinking or actually be a thought that I knew I had thought that I put into the character. So, like, it's weird how much of yourself you end up putting into the series and you don't realize you're doing it, because suddenly you hear a character say something and it scares you because you're like, oh, whoa, that's exactly what I was thinking at this moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Like, I literally, I mean, because I wrote, like, a lot of things based on, like, people I knew, like, all of Cyrus's dialogue was, like, this is something that Omar, who plays him, who ended up playing him, I didn't know if he would when I was writing it, but that Omar would say, and how my friend Ray would say it. And Ray wrote some of the Corey and Cyrus dialogue, especially, like, there's, like, a speech about being annoying and that kind of thing, and it was like, oh my god, Ray, baby. But yeah, and, like, my friend Hannah wrote the thing about Cyrus and asexuality, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And, stuff like that. Yeah, it's interesting how things sort of develop alongside web series. It's time-consuming web series, because if you think of all the time that you spend writing it and thinking about it and plotting it, and then by the time you film it, and then by the time it's all posted, like, it takes up a real chunk of your life. Yeah. So it can kind of become, like, to me, The Better Strangers / A Document of Madness has become it's an era for me. And it won't be for everyone else, but you spend so much time working on it, and it's not something that you just put out once. Like, you continue to put it out and publish it. So it's strange. It's like it's weird because it's separate. Like, like the summer we filmed it is always going to be like, that was that summer, and it was the summer before university as well. So it was just kind of like, I have nothing apart from this thing, and. But then the year putting it out was, like, a completely different, time, because, it was the first year of uni, and also it was, I started talking to the web series Thunderdome, which is Sara and everyone, a lot more, and it was like, oh, yeah, this is really cool, and I have all these people to talk to about web series, and now this is a huge thing. It's weird. It's like, oh, this is a real staple of your life now. Like, that I did this thing.
Yeah.
Because they take ages.
They take so much of your time. That's why my biggest advice when you're writing a web series and creating a web series is you have to figure out why you're doing it and cling to it. Because there will be times when you're writing, you're like, I don't want to write anymore. And there'll be times when you're filming, you're like, I don't want to film anymore. And like through publishing, you're like, why am I doing this? So find out like what inspired you to be like, yes, I want to write this specific story. And like what about it like means something to you. Because for Documented Madness, the main reason why I was doing it was to have that PSA on suicide awareness. Like that was a huge part for me. So that was like what really carried me through. But it won't always be like something huge like that. Like for The Better Strangers, it was more of the characters themselves. Like I loved those characters, so they brought me through it.
You just really want to make this classic couple gay.
That's all you want to do.
You want.
It's all that's true. Like you just, although I didn't do anything with couples in it, but no, like I would say like figure out what you can do realistically. Like obviously, basically the first time you make something is always going to be experimenting and figuring out what you can do, and the fact basically being able to finish it is that's it. That's what you've done. Like it doesn't matter. You can look back on it and be like, oh, I would have changed this or blah blah blah. But you did a thing, and it was a real thing that you put on the internet.
Yeah. Congratulations to anyone who's done that, because that's a feat. That's a feat within itself.
Like bringing it back to pacing, like. There's a lot of stuff. Basically, I would say first web series, do whatever the fuck you want. Second web series, write a thing and then cut it down by half and figure out, because this is the thing, figure out what you need to keep in there, what actually needs to be in there, because extraneous stuff is the reason why so many people stop watching web series. It's like you can do extraneous stuff after you do the plot, and you do the first one, and it's like, oh, people are really invested because plot, and then when later you can do whatever the frick you want, which is what the big web series did, and people still watch them.
What's a good real life TV show that people like stop watching because it gets so extraneous? Because I'm trying not to like call out web series and this.
No, that's true.
Because I don't want it to be that podcast. So I'm trying to think of like real world examples of a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to think of like what's a good TV show as an example of like people just stopped watching. Maybe Supernatural, but I never watched Supernatural.
I started watching Once Upon a Time, and after it's like sort of like Lost. You watch like the first season, and the first season's like, oh, this has a really interesting idea, but then it gets so crazy, and you're just like, what's going on?
It was like,
and then all of a sudden there's Frozen.
It's like Glee.
It didn't make any sense.
It's like Glee.
Like Glee.
Oh my god.
Glee and Once Upon a Time, it's like the first series is so like idea driven and like this thing, and you're like, whoa, there. This is interesting, someone cared about this, and then it's just stupid shit.
Let's make
and
money.
You're like, I didn't like, I mean, Once Upon a Time I stopped watching it because I stopped having Sky, which had all the series on it. But I think I was getting way less invested in it before that. I was like, okay, I don't care, but this is fun to watch on a, like it, basically it went from being a show that I really, really liked and I would watch it when I got home from school. I was like, oh, I'm really gonna watch this, to a show that was fine to watch when I was sick, watch all the episodes in a row while my brain was melting, like, which can be an issue, you just kind of lose it.
I think it's important when you're writing, like writing is where is the script is the foundation of everything. So I think it's really important that you know what your limits are when you're writing the script. Know you're not going to be able to do that crowd scene. No, you're probably going to only have one set. Yeah. I want to be like, write whatever you want, because Ingrid, you were kind of saying that, like, write whatever you want for this first script.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, understand what your limits are and are going to be, and try to do that in the script.
Like, I definitely say write whatever and then look back on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're like, I want to have the really big party, and then you look back at that and you're like, okay, realistically, how many people will I be able to get to come to my house and hang around? Or like, you know, I want them, like, I literally had a thing where I was like, I want them to go to a bar, and then I was like, I'm not going to be able to show that. So I'll have them talk about it and try and do it in a more interesting way than just, this is what happened. Because that's one of the, like, you know, web series sins of just like, whoa, this big battle happened, but we couldn't show it because we only film in this one room, so...
Like, sometimes when you talk about the action off screen, everyone's like, what? But at the same time, there are so many more interesting ways to do it than just to show the action. You could, there's, people can be really ingenious, like, or really genius. I forget which one is the better word for it, but they can be really smart about it, and it works really well.
There's this great episode. It's one of my favorite episodes in Taj Watch. It's a vlog-style episode. It's one of Stanley's vlogs, and as he's vlogging, Violet and Sherlock come in, and Violet's kind of, like, kooky, crazy, like, believes that aliens are real. She's great. And so she's like, we're gonna go do this thing, and then there's this jump cut, and when they come back, all three of them are a mess. And are, like, covered in, like, dirt and soot, and are, like, and it basically, and pretty quickly, as soon as they, like, are back on camera, it's like, so the thing we were investigating burned down. And it's like, so it's like, you know, there's so much you can do, like when you're talking about, like, a big battle scene, like, maybe you can't show that because you're a vlog, but you could have your person show up on screen all beat up and just rambling.
You know what you can do, and what is, like, the best thing in a web series maker's arsenal is sound. And what you can do is have someone come up to a thing with the camera and then drop their camera and then make explosion sounds or whatever. Like, you know.
Or like there's no visual, boy, is there a lot of explosions happening. Yeah. We got this for free on the internet.
Literally,
these explosion sounds.
We got these explosions for free on the internet. You know, because there's a lot you can do with, like, frickin' lighting and just, like, throw some rocks in front of the camera, like, you know. It's easier to do that than it is to choreograph people and film a thing from a really weird static shot.
Yeah. Because sometimes when you have an action scene, it's harder to get everyone to do what you want because there's so many people. So sometimes it'll be better for you to do the off-camera thing, but really, really well. Like, that will be so much better than having, like, some choreographed scene where, like, people are doing something and you're kind of like, what? Because that happened for The Better Strangers for me. Like, the party scene, that was sort of like, sometimes I thought, you know what, maybe we should have this be off-camera and do it well. But I think it worked out either way.
Yeah, I mean, angles are your friend. Angles are so much your friend.
Seriously. And you'll figure it out when you get into the room. Like, what will happen. Because sometimes you just kind of hope and dream in the script, and then you gotta put your director's hat on once you get there. You gotta drop the writer at the door sometimes. Like, you gotta put the scriptwriter in the corner and be like, I hear you, babe, but, like, now's not the time. Like, you don't understand the full situation.
I know you want this to happen, and I know you want this person to be right here, but that's not how it works.
It's not gonna always be the way you want.
No. Can't always get what you want. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that and staging and stuff. I thought about a thing that I had a rant about a while ago about a specific web series, but we're not going to mention it because Sara is being nice. Sara, sorry, I don't know how to say your name. It's really annoying.
It's okay, babe.
Anyway, no, what I was saying, specifically because I was thinking about this a while ago, but then again the other day, is about because when you're doing vlog series, specifically vlog style, because, you know, that is easier to do, but you always have to keep in mind the point of view, because if it's a vlog, the point of view of the person filming, and more importantly, the point of view of the person whose channel it is, who edits it and who uploads it, is always in play. Always. And so, like, if you have something filmed and it's like, oh, this is just incidental of these two other characters or this one other character talking about this thing, it's always going to be like, but this person, the main person, put it up on their channel, but they did that. Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you some other way explain it, that's just what it is. You know, I mean, I specifically have done stuff to get around that, like, you know, having out-of-world scenes, but everything, this is the thing, though, all of those were originally in script, and then I was like, this doesn't make sense, no one would put this up. So it's like, everything was captured on camera in World, it was just not put up. And so, it's, you know, and then in Unups, obviously, there's the mirror videos, which no one has control of, so it's fine, I can just do it, we'll just do whatever. But, you know, because it's really, really difficult to be able to do a thing with a different character saying, like, I believe this thing, you know, or just having a character on screen without it being like, oh, this is weird because it's actually this other person has decided to upload this about them, you know? And it's like, they've decided to upload, like,
I just want to say that...
Yeah.
Oh, I was... Sorry, Ingrid, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine, go on.
Do you want to finish?
That's it.
Okay, because I was going to say that, like... Because, like, I think it's especially important because with vlog-style series, it's like, you might be tempted to put something up for plot reasons that no one in their right mind would actually put up on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, someone... Like, Aubrey, like, talking about your series, like, someone might be like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if Ophelia filmed her goodbye message?
Oh, yeah.
And then that way we could show that. But no one in their right mind would ever put something like that on YouTube.
No, yeah.
Even with her permission. Like, just no one would do, like, just no one would do that. But as a plot device, it probably would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I love about literary-inspired web series, is even though you have to stick to a certain, like, social rules, you still, like, everyone thinks outside the box. And it's really interesting to see what people come up with.
I mean, it's basically you have to have motivation in mind. Like, you can have someone put something up that you'd be like, what the fuck, why would you do that? But if they have reason to, and if they have the motivation behind it, then it's like, okay, that works. But, you know, when it doesn't line up, it's just like,
yeah,
and especially...
if you've, like, established the character as someone who would put up someone's suicide message as an example, like, then you can do it. But if suddenly, or, like, there's another web series, again, not calling out any names, but there's another certain web series that I've never personally watched, but Shannon was talking at it at one point, and she was like, yeah, suddenly they were showing a dead body on screen, and it was just like, no one would do that in real life.
Yeah.
And especially with vlog style, you're more constrained by real lifeness. You're not so constrained by that if you're doing traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone sort of starts to transfer over. That's why there's sort of like a gap. You start vlog style and you start transferring over to traditional.
It's especially like, if you have someone who's like, I'm going to expose the story and this is all what happened and now I'm going to upload it, like, that's one thing where you can kind of, and if it's like a more serious thing, you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily a dead body, but, like, you know, stuff like that kind of thing. And whereas, you know, especially in series that are supposed to be more like fun, and just like hanging around, we're doing vlogs, and then serious shit happens because it's a play or a novel.
Yeah.
And then you put that on the internet, or like you know, something that would be like, you know, especially if you have like, you know, for example, if you had a guy was the protagonist who had the vlog, and then there's something with a girl who was like really drunk or something, and it's like, that's really gross for you to put that up. Why would you do that? So you can't like then make them a likable character when they've done this without addressing it in world. Oh.
Yeah. That's really interesting, because I had an issue with likability of my characters. Is sometimes you're like, how far can I take this? Because sometimes it's really crucial for the audience to like your characters, but sometimes you just gotta like not give a excuse my French, but like not give a fuck, because you gotta just like who the character is what the character is. Like I had like people didn't really like Rose in the cast. They were always like, oh, she's catfishing him, and oh, she's not a good person. But that's sort of like the point, is she's not like she's different. Like she has a different point of view and a different motivation.
I mean, it's basically like, as long as you care about it, like, okay, some real world examples, but like, there's stuff like, well, again, like Glee, where they had characters who they would constantly make do terrible things for the sake of narrative, and then you're still supposed to be on their side and like them. Like, especially they did this with Finn a lot. A lot, and they'd have him do an awful thing because he was like the everyman character, so they were saying even a nice person can do this awful thing, but then they wouldn't have him like atone for it, and because he kept doing them over and over and over, and you'd be like, get some different people because I don't like him anymore. Whereas, you know, shows like Breaking Bad and like Mad Men and stuff, it's like, these are really, like, you know, there are people in this who are really, really unlikable, and you don't like them as people, but you care about what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
And how they're going to react to situations around them, how that's going to affect other people, you know.
And a lot of that is down to having people face repercussions for their actions.
Yeah.
Like if you,
and learning from them.
Yeah, and if you had that male character that uploaded a video with a female character and it drunk, if you show him facing repercussions within the videos for uploading that, without her permission, because someone else could have been like, oh, she gave her permission, but it's still a really gross thing for you to put up. Like, you can do that.
Like it's either like, you know, they face repercussions for it, or they don't, but someone else is outraged by that. Like, you have to have another point of view, essentially.
You do, yeah.
And it's really, really difficult to do that when the only videos you're getting are from one person.
Yeah.
Because they can, it's, you know, I would actually really love to see the kind of, like, you know, I mean, maybe it would be too close to home in the wake of, like, you know, the things that have been happening with YouTubers in the past few years, like, you know, actual horrible stuff, but like, you know, the way that someone can twist a narrative in their favor and sort of be like, oh, but I didn't do this because blah blah blah, you know, this happened.
The
Crucible web series coming 2063.
The Crucible web series.
It's my next big project after Gay Pride and Prejudice, the Crucible web series.
I love it.
I'm literally, there are so many things I'm like, just gotta wait until it's in public domain. It's like all the frickin' Miss Marple web series, 2030.
When would the Crucible be in public domain? I need to look into that.
It
because it's from the 1950s. It's not. Because it's from the 1950s.
It's not.
But the Salem witch trials are.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You've just got to make it different enough. It's like freaking Wizard of Oz. 1936 movie isn't, but the book is, so...
Yeah.
Or Peter Pan, it's in public domain, but you still need to make that really big donation to the Children's Hospital.
Yeah, apart from, like, frickin' the Thingy movie didn't, which was
Pan?
bad.
No, Pan made a donation. It was on the Great Ormond's website. The Pan had made a donation. They just never...
Oh, okay.
The movie never stated that they had made a donation to the hospital. That's what's considered kosher. Because both the play and the novel are in public domain now. And so the hospital no longer owns the rights, but if you do a production of it, you need to give them money, basically.
Come on. That's better. But yeah. Anyway, Sarah, Did you have more web series related questions?
Yes. Okay. So we talked about it kind of throughout other things, but like traditional versus vlog style and writing for them. The big thing, I think, is that if you're doing a vlog style, you're going to have more episodes that are shorter than traditional.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Especially because vlog style is so short. And traditional, you're not going to have like a 5-minute traditional episode. It's probably going to be 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you want to keep people's attention. That's my issue with vlog style is I feel like you have to constantly keep people's attention and keep them watching, because you can't do like some really artsy or like cool shot or like do a lot of cinematography, or like there's a lot of it's harder because you have to keep people's attention in a way that you can't usually during like a traditional thing, which is harder.
Yeah. There's one thing that I would say that I've been thinking about recently. With vlog style web series, make more than one person live in the main room that you vlog in, because that makes so much shit so much easier. Do you know what I mean? If they are roommates, you can do so much more, because otherwise it's like, why are all these people in this person's room?
Yeah.
Why is nothing happening in this room? Like, you know, it's double-edged sword, because you don't want to have people bursting in all the time, but you need to show action somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just that thing about vlog series I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You actually, it's weird. You kind of blew my mind with that statement. Like, because I just like immediately had this one moment of like, oh yeah, like, because that's why the Better Strangers, the Rose and Jill had to live together, because that was for like just set reasons they had to live together, and then I realized plot reasons they had to live together. But then actually, that does help, like them interact with different characters.
Makes it so much like, I mean, because it's like. In stuff like, I'm going to use web series because this isn't negative, but like, you know, stuff like, you know, obviously Carmilla, they're roommates, and that's the whole tension of season 1, why it works so well, especially at the beginning. And then you've got like, you know, Nothing Much to Do. They live in the same house and it's their house. It's not, you know, and then, you know, 12th grade where they are roommates and stuff like that. And if you're in, like, a dorm situation or whatever and people are roommates, it's just so much easier. Or a dorm situation in general. If you're going to do students, it's like, okay, this makes sense why everyone is in and out of everyone's house all the time. Because otherwise it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah. I mean, vlog versus traditional. What do we think?
Sarah?
I don't know.
Passing it off to you. I have no experience.
Repeat what you just said, Ingrid. So now I'm trying to
vlog
think.
versus traditional. Which did you enjoy making more for thingy? Hot.
Yeah, that's hard because, like, while we were doing the traditional, we were still doing vlogs and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And the filming of the traditional is just so much harder than filming vlog style. But there's so much more story we could tell when we went to traditional because, like, you couldn't do cam vlog style.
No.
Because they watch him. Spoiler alert! If you haven't watched Taj Watch, you watch him.
Go and watch Taj Watch. Watch the entirety of Taj Watch, and then come back
to this podcast.
It's
only 11 hours. It's only 11 hours long.
It'll take you a couple days. Get a hot drink. So, for the spoiler version of that story, they break into a house and someone shoots someone.
So it's like you couldn't do that vlog style. First of all, no one in their right mind would film themselves breaking and entering.
Yeah.
There are some people who have, and they've gotten caught. So don't do that. Not to mention breaking and entering and then showing someone getting shot and then putting all of that on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. So we would have never, so that would have been and then because in the script, not in the script, like in the original short story or novel, because I can't remember if Cam's a short story or a novel in this moment. Will probably tell me. They lie to the police and are like, no, we were never there. So Jamie wouldn't have even, if we'd just been doing it strictly vlog style, Jamie wouldn't have even been able to talk about it on camera. No. She would have had to make up a story, and only people who had read that story before would know what was going on.
Yeah.
So if you were just watching Taj Watch because you love me and Shannon, you'd be like, what the fucking fuck just happened?
I mean, it's stuff like that where it's really difficult to transpose stuff and have it like mean the same stuff. Like, you know, especially when you're adapting things, you know, how like realistic and how serious your subject matter is really matters. Like, well, you know, like you'd have it in stuff, you know, if there was, you know, even if you did have someone die on screen and then you were like, we want to know who did this, so we're putting up this video in case someone can identify them. And that's like, it would work for a reason they'd put it up, but it's like when you're watching that and it's on YouTube and you're like, but this isn't real though, and that's kind of freaks you out because you're like, it's too much. But it's also like,
I think for me personally, from now on, I'm probably going to stick to traditional style, like in writing and the things that I create, because it's just not as limited. There's so much more stuff you can do. Yeah. I mean, maybe they'll end up being that the Crucible web series coming 2063 will work better vlog style or holographic style, since it'll be 2063, and who knows what technology will be like at that point. But it's like there's just so much more you can do traditional style. It is harder. It is so much harder.
It's harder to film. It's easier to write around.
For sure.
I mean, vlogs can be really interesting, but you have to sort of take it into account, because I think the first couple of times it was done, it was like, whoa, this is like, I'm watching a vlog, but it's a real story. But then there are so many that are really similar, and you start to notice the cracks and what makes sense and what doesn't. And so with vlog style, it really has to be nowadays, you kind of have to be making a point about vlogging, not necessarily about like it as an art form or whatever, but like as, you know, in terms of how it relates to the story and to the people doing it. And what you show on screen and what you don't, and that kind of thing. I mean, because, you know, with Unups, we're still doing vlog style, and I like it that way because it makes sense. It makes sense to not show stuff, and it also, like, I like it because it brings the magic and technology thing right up front and center, because that was a thing that we were really like specific about. We wanted it to be obvious all the time that it was modern day and that we were doing a thing, like, you know, because otherwise it would just be sort of like, you know, this could be anyone. But yeah, like it's always so that's the kind of thing you have to basically take some element of why this is a vlog series. Like you can still make stuff in it. It's still, you know, nice and good. But yeah, I just nowadays it makes it a bit more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end here. So I just wanted to close this out with some just kind of like basic script writing advice. Celtx is your friend. Celtx is free. Celtx is your friend. That's CELTX. And it's a script writing software. These days I'm using Scrivener, but Scrivener is not free. It is your friend though, should you choose to use it, but it is not free. So Celtx is your best friend if you're starting.
I used a classic old Word document. That's all I had. I don't really know much about anything. I would just say
Celtx is good because it formats for you.
Oh, that's actually really nice.
Yeah.
That took a lot of time for me.
Celtx is actually really good. It can be sort of intimidating to begin with, but yeah, it's really good and really usable. In my first script writing class in first year, they were just like, hey, this is the thing, use it for all your stuff or I won't read it. Because Word documents is good and is easy, but it's difficult to sort of figure out what goes where and how you can differentiate things.
Yeah, it's not to say that you can't use a Word document, but getting the proper formatting worked out in a Word document will take a while. And then Celtx has all the key shortcuts. I don't know what they're technically called. I'm not the most technical person. So like as you're writing, you just have to hit enter or hit tab or whatever, and to put in a character name. And then it's also really handy in that it'll remember like your character and all your character names. So you'll like type in the first letter and it'll be like, oh, do you mean this person? And I'll be like, yes, I do. You love me so much. And I love you, Celtx. Yeah. Scrivener is similar, but Scrivener is, like I said, costs money. But yeah, so Celtx is your friend. There's plenty of books and stuff you can get from the library. You can find online that's like how to write a short film, how to write a movie, how to write a TV show.
I'd say definitely a really good thing to do. Even when you're writing prose stuff, but especially with script, is to read it out loud to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, you can sound stupid or whatever, but it's really, really important because you can read something and be like, that makes no sense. Or just be like, I've used this word 3 times in the past sentence. That feels weird to say. But it's really good.
Have someone else on hand to read your work. Oh, and it's so easy to find scripts online. Like, no one ever, like, people talk about this. Like, I'm not going to say that no one talks about it. But there's so many scripts, I guess, they're not copyrighted like other stuff is. Yeah,
they are, but they're, not owned by, one specific playhouse or whatever. So if you want to perform something, you can look it up online. So you can sort of find stuff. And especially, TV shows, there'll be random episodes of EastEnders online, shit you not there.
So if you have a TV show that that, your web series is going to kind of be in the style in, Gay Pride and Prejudice is going to be mockumentary, so I went and I pulled a bunch of Parks and Recs episodes down, and I'm, basically using that to format my scripts. Here's how they, one thing I realized is that, this specifically with Parks and Rec, is that, so whenever they had a talking head on the show, which a talking head is when they would have, a character, a single character in front of the camera just talking about what's going on. And then a lot of times in Parks and Rec, they would play footage during the talking head. And so in all of their scripts, that's called the B-roll. And I was like, Shannon, is this a thing? And she's like, well, it's in their script. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to steal this and use it for my script.
Yeah.
But that's not the way that it's normally used, though. So that's weird. But yeah,
that's
basically this entire, read scripts, especially if you're doing a web series, because I've talked before as, TV is to web series as short film is to film. So go read a bunch of TV scripts when you're working on your web series. Yeah. When will there be a vlog TV show?
Yeah, one thing that I'd actually really love to see is not vlog related, but I was thinking about this, is a sort of, literary inspired web series adaptation that's in audio form, podcast form.
Yeah, we were talking
you could
about
do so much more with that.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier. I thought that's what you meant when you were talking about podcasts.
Well, yeah. Well, just to do a podcast version. That would be really interesting.
That's isn't
I want to see
Isn't
that.
like Night Vale?
I wanna
I've
listen
never
to
seen
that.
Night Vale or never heard Night Vale, but isn't that like a podcast, like sort of radio show?
Yeah, like it's a radio show. Oh my god, that would be amazing to have it as a radio show, but set in the world of something.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Set in a novel.
All right, so we need to sign off because I've got to record with another person with Ingrid.
All right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But thank you, listeners. Thank you, Aubrey and Ingrid, for being here.
Thank you.
This was
Thank
fun.
you for having me.
Yeah. This is great.
Alrighty.